Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the AccenTraining Podcast. My name is Pat, and I have a great list of idiomatic expressions for you today about negotiating with your friends while maintaining a mutual level of respect and maintaining your friendship with American English speakers. And then our next episode after this one is going to talk about negotiating at work with your coworkers, with your bosses, your superiors. You don't want to miss that, so make sure that you're following the AccenTraining Podcast so that you're updated. Getting into it. Idiom number 1. The elephant in the room. We need to address the elephant in the room. Notice my change in intonation there? We need to address the elephant in the room. Tell me which word is getting the most strength in this phrase. We need to address the elephant in the room. The word address is getting the most strength, bringing the attention to the action that we're taking. We're addressing it. We're confronting it. What does that idiom mean? Well, here's what it is. Pretend that there's an elephant in the room that you're in right now. It would definitely catch your attention. You would be noticing it. But now pretend that you're trying to ignore the elephant, that you want to act like the elephant is not there, that it doesn't exist. You're ignoring something which everyone can see, everyone is clearly aware of, and you're just pretending it isn't a real thing. There's an elephant in the room. Now replace the word elephant with problem. The problem, the uncomfortable feeling. Something that everybody in the room can see, everybody in the room feels, but nobody wants to say anything because it'll be uncomfortable. It won't be a very fun conversation. There's an elephant in the room. There's a huge, obvious problem in the room, and nobody wants to address it. It's tough to address. Anytime that you say that there's an elephant in the room to Americans, you're saying there's a big problem in the room, and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to draw everyone's attention to it so that we can solve it. We're going to let that elephant out of the room. So that's idiomatic expression number 1. Sounds a little ridiculous, kind of circus-like, right? Elephant in the room. We need to talk about the elephant in the room. Personally, whenever I hear that idiomatic expression, I picture a giant gray elephant with red spots all over it. Idiomatic expression number 2. Listen closely and tell me what kind of intonational patterns you hear. Let's nip this problem in the bud. Let's nip this problem in the bud. Let's nip this problem in the bud. Again, the verb, the action word, is getting the attention here. The thing that we're doing to solve the problem. So what does that mean now? Let's nip this problem in the bud. Well, this means solving a problem while it's small before it becomes a serious issue. So a friend of yours does something that you don't like, and you just address it immediately. You nip the problem in the bud. This way, it doesn't become an elephant in the room. Now, I want to bring your attention to one little thing here. Bud. B-U-D at the end of that phrase. Nip this problem in the bud. B-U-D. A lot of people, including native English speakers, will mispronounce this to say but, like B-U-T-T. Let's nip this problem in the butt. And I just want to point out that that is a bit of a mistake. And it's a mistake that people are making just because they're listening and they're trying to listen closely and they're trying to repeat what they hear other people say. But that doesn't actually make sense to nip the problem in the butt. Like, that means biting it in the butt. You don't need to do that. That's not going to solve your problem. That might make it worse. However, if you nip the problem in the bud, well, a bud is like when a rose or a flower starts growing. And it's when the head of it starts to poke out. If you were to nip it, like to remove it, to crush it, before it grows into a flower, well, it's very easy and very quick to do. That's what it means. There's a budding problem. There's a small, tiny problem, not a big one. And we got to take care of it. Let's nip it in the bud. Not in the butt, in the bud. Solve a small issue before it becomes a serious issue. Idiomatic expression number 3. Listen for the intonation here. Try to see where I'm coming from. Try to see where I'm coming from. If you notice that the word try is raising in pitch, you're correct. Try to see where I'm coming from. So what does this idiom mean now? Well, does it mean like what country you're coming from? What city? Where you live? Not exactly. This means consider my point of view. It means try to look at this problem through the same perspective as I'm using to look at this problem. Try to see where I'm coming from. It's kind of like saying, I don't think that you're considering my opinions, or, somebody isn't considering or really listening to you. And you're politely and clearly asking them to please listen and take in your opinion more seriously. Try to see where I'm coming from. And then idiomatic expression number 4. Let's agree to disagree. Listen for that stress once more. Listen for the changes in intonation. Let's agree to disagree. Let's agree to disagree. The word agree is getting stressed there. Again, the most important verb, the most important action in this phrase, agree. Let's agree. We're coming to terms on something, to disagree. We're coming to terms on the fact that we don't agree with each other. We have opposing opinions. Let's agree to disagree. So this is just acknowledging the fact that you have preferences, I have preferences, and we can respect each other's viewpoints without trying to change each other. This is important if you're talking about politics, sports, religion, how to raise kids, how to take care of yourself. Often contentious topics if you disagree with people on these things. People have very strong opinions when it comes to politics or religion or sports. You want to tread lightly with all three of those things. You want to take care when you're talking about them. And if you find you can't agree with somebody about these things, and you also find that the conversation is not fruitful, it's just turning into an uncomfortable argument, you can simply end the conversation by saying, let's agree to disagree. You have your opinions, I have mine. we can respect each other without trying to change each other. So let's put this all into context with a quick little story. So imagine you've got a friend, and you've lent that friend $100. Not a lot. You'd be okay without it. However, certainly is something that you want to know where that $100 is going. And your friend said, well, hey, I just need to get some groceries. Can you send me $100? And you want to help them out, so you send them $100. And they tell you that they'll pay you back before the end of the month, but 2 months have gone by, 3 months. And they haven't paid you back yet. You see them often, but they want to pretend like they never borrowed money off you in the first place. They ignore it. However, to you, there's an elephant in the room. You've got an issue with this person, with this close friend of yours who you trust, but there's an elephant in the room. And then they come back to you once again and they say, hey, I hear you're doing really well financially. Do you mind sending me another $200? I gotta fill my tank with some gas, and I need about $200. And you think about it. And you say, hey, look, there's an elephant in the room, buddy. We need to address the elephant in the room. I lent you money already. You never paid me back for it. What's the deal? And they say, well, it's in this economy, it's been rough. It isn't easy. Inflation and things are getting more expensive. And you feel like, okay, he's right. You want to help him out, but you can't have money getting in the way of your friendship. And so you decide, you know what? Forget about the $100. Don't worry about it. You don't ever have to pay me back. But let's nip this problem in the bud. Let's solve this problem while it's small, before it becomes a serious issue, before it damages our relationship. Let's nip this problem in the bud. I will not lend you another $200. I can't be lending you money if you can't pay me back. And your friend says, well, come on, try to understand where I'm coming from here. It was my mom's birthday last month, and I had to buy her a nice present. I needed a new pair of winter boots. And I just got denied a raise at work. Can you believe it? You gotta see where I'm coming from here. And you look at this guy and you think about it. And you think about what you saw him post on social media. He was out partying. He was out partying. He was out in the disco dancing, having the time of his life. He went to Six Flags. Spent a whole bunch of money on food and trying to impress people with buying souvenirs and silly toys, junk. You know what this guy spends his money on. But you don't want to argue with him about it. You've said your part. You've told him, hey, look, I can't give you any more money, buddy. I'm sorry. I can't do it. You address the elephant in the room. And you've tried to see where he's coming from. You've heard his sob story. But you also know the reality of it, that this guy's a financial train wreck. And so you tell him, hey, look, let's agree to disagree. Let's agree to disagree. You have one perspective on your problems, and I cannot see things through that same perspective. It just doesn't add up to me. Let's agree to disagree. I respect your viewpoint. I respect your opinions, your preferences, but I don't agree. And that's it. That kind of ends things. Not necessarily better than they were. However, you've stood your ground, you've stated your opinion, your perspective, and you've done it all respectfully. You've done it all in a way that maintains your friendship. You've negotiated a stronger relationship with your friend. That's what I wanted you to learn to do. To negotiate with people while maintaining a mutual level of respect. Now, of course, there are many more idioms that you can use in a negotiation. A negotiation with friends, or like our previous episode, a negotiation over prices. Or our next episode, negotiating with colleagues and with your bosses. Negotiating in the workplace. There are many idiomatic expressions that can help you get your point across clearly. However, you can't learn them all at once. It's not going to help you if you just fill your brain with idioms all day and you don't actually use them. You're just pretending to be improving your English. Improving your English happens when you use the words and the phrases and the sounds that you've learned. So, if you want this podcast episode to be of maximum value to you, then go out into your daily life and use one of the idiomatic expressions that we've talked about here today. Negotiate yourself some good, clear terms and maintain your relationships with your friends and family and acquaintances as you do. And like I said, our next episode is going to cover negotiating with colleagues, negotiating with your bosses. So make sure that you're following the Accent Training Podcast so that you don't miss a second of it. Have a good one, folks.